Outsourcing cold calling to the Philippines, a how-to guide. Why B2B teams look to the Philippines for cold calling. Building an in-house SDR function is expensive and slow. Recruiting, ramp time, management overhead, and turnover can easily stall pipeline for a full quarter. That's why more B2B leaders are exploring sales outsourcing to the Philippines as a practical way to add calling capacity without betting the farm on headcount. Done right, you get more conversations and more qualified meetings without sacrificing brand control. The Philippines isn't a cheap labor workaround. It's a contact center powerhouse with roughly $31.5 billion in estimated 2024 contact center revenue and about 1.62 million employees supporting the industry. That depth matters for B2B cold calling services because you're not training from zero. You're hiring from a mature market where outbound calling is a real career path. For teams evaluating a cold calling agency or SDR agency, that maturity is often the difference between quick traction and months of churn. In our experience at SalesHive, the best outcomes come when you treat outsourced cold callers like an extension of your SDR team, not a black box vendor. Weekly pipeline reviews, call coaching, and clear qualification standards keep the program aligned to revenue, not vanity dials. If you're looking for an outsourced sales team that can scale top-of-funnel activity while your AEs stay focused on discovery and demos, the Philippines is one of the most reliable markets to build from. The economics, cost advantage, without a race to the bottom. Let's be direct. Cost is a major driver, and it's real. Many companies report 50 to 70% labor savings by outsourcing cold call services to the Philippines versus hiring comparable roles in the US, which can free budget for better data, better creative, and stronger closers. But the best programs don't save money as the end goal. They redeploy spend to generate more pipeline per dollar. The wage gap explains much of the math. An average Philippine call center wage is often cited around $2.30 per hour, roughly $4,700 to $5,000 per year, while a US-based sales development representative averages about $19 per hour and roughly $39,000 per year before benefits and overhead. Once you add payroll taxes, tooling, and management, US SDR all-in cost typically lands far higher. That's why outsourcing can be a lever for speed and experimentation, not just a line item reduction. Scale is the other hidden advantage. The Philippines represents roughly 16% of the global outsourcing market and is cited at about $38 billion in contact center revenue in 2025, supported by an estimated 1.8 million BPO professionals. When a market is that large, you're not choosing between two vendors, you're choosing among many, which gives serious buyers leverage to demand training, QA, reporting, and CRM discipline. Make sure outsourcing fits your go-to-market motion. Outsourcing B2B cold calling works best when your outbound motion is already defined. If you know your ideal customer profile, ICP, your offer, and what a qualified meeting means in operational terms, an outsourced team can execute at volume and consistency. If you outsource before those pieces are clear, you're not buying performance, you're paying for chaos at a discount. A simple way to think about fit is repeatability. If your sales motion depends on pattern-based qualification, common pains, clear buying roles, consistent deal sizes, Philippines-based cold callers can do excellent work, especially when supported by strong enablement and a modern tech stack. If your motion is highly bespoke, ultra-enterprise politics, one-off security concerns, or complex consensus mapping, you can still outsource parts of the work, but you'll want in-house ownership of the highest stakes conversations. Language is rarely the limiting factor for US and European outreach. The Philippines ranks 20th out of 113 countries in EF's 2023 English Proficiency Index, and second in Asia, which means most reps can handle nuanced B2B conversations when trained on your buyers and your category. The bigger risk is not accent. It's whether the team has the confidence and coaching to qualify directly, handle objections, and stay aligned to your brand voice. Build a playbook before the first dial. If you want your cold calling team to generate meetings your AEs actually want, you need a playbook that removes ambiguity. We recommend locking down 3 items before kickoff: your ICP, firmographics and technographics, your personas, titles and buying roles, and your qualification checklist. What must be true for a meeting to count? This is where many sales agencies and cold calling companies fall short, because it's easier to promise volume than define quality. Qualification criteria should be CRM field specific, not vague. Instead of interested or good fit, define the required attributes: company size range, region, current tools, trigger events, problem severity, and the disqualifiers that should stop a booking. When offshore reps don't have that clarity, they default to being polite and booking anything that resembles a yes, which drives no-shows and meeting rejects. Instrumentation is non-negotiable from day one. If your provider can't log activity inside your CRM, share call recordings, and report connect rate, conversation rate, and meeting rate by list and script, you'll never know whether the issue is data, messaging, coaching, or rep performance. A strong outbound sales agency will insist on visibility, because optimization only happens when you can see the whole system. Outsourcing works when you keep ownership of strategy and standards and outsource the execution with full transparency. Choose and onboard a partner like you're hiring a team. Selecting a provider is less like buying software and more like hiring a function. The common mistake is choosing the cheapest vendor and hoping process appears later. In B2B sales outsourcing, that usually means generic customer service profiles doing revenue work, weak QA, and inconsistent reporting. A better approach is to vet for B2B calling experience, coachability, and the ability to operate inside your stack: CRM, dialer, analytics, with clean attribution. Onboarding should look like a real enablement program. Give the team a short, opinionated message house, your objection handling frameworks, and a clear meeting definition. Then run role plays before anyone touches live prospects. Build a shared call library so new reps can learn what great sounds like, and schedule weekly calibrations where you listen to calls together and tighten the script based on real conversations. Set expectations with an SLA that covers more than activity. We like to align around data quality, accurate dispositions and notes, meeting acceptance rate, and show rate, not just dials, because raw volume can hide bad targeting and weak qualification. If you're partnering with a cold calling agency or sales development agency, their willingness to commit to transparency and continuous coaching is often the best predictor of long-term results. Avoid the pitfalls that destroy meeting quality. The fastest way to prove outsourcing doesn't work is to outsource before you have product market fit and a stable outbound narrative. When ICP, pricing, or positioning are still moving targets, an offshore team will amplify the confusion at scale, and you'll burn lists and brand goodwill. If you're still iterating, run a smaller, more hands-on program first. Then outsource once the motion is repeatable. The second major failure mode is not integrating the outsourced team into your systems. If callers are working from spreadsheets and a separate dialer, you lose attribution, can't enforce territory rules, and can't coach to outcomes. So ROI becomes guesswork. require standardized CRM activity logging, shared dashboards, and call recordings so your internal leaders can coach the same way they would an in-house SDR pod. Finally, don't ignore cultural and communication nuance. Even with high English proficiency, some reps may hesitate to press on objections or ask direct qualification questions unless you explicitly coach what confident and respectful sounds like in your market. This is fixable with structured role plays, clear permission to probe, and examples from your best internal calls, especially for more demanding B2B cold calling services where discovery quality matters more than talk time. Optimize with data, coaching, and a hybrid model. The most reliable way to scale is to start narrow. One ICP, one offer, one region. Then you run controlled tests on lists, talk tracks, and cadences while tracking conversion through the funnel. The Philippines contact center market is also expanding. Industry forecasts point to around 9% year-over-year growth in 2024. So you can treat this as building a capability, not a temporary hack. For most B2B teams, a hybrid model is the sweet spot. Use a US-based strategist to own messaging, qualification standards, and coaching. Pair that with Philippines-based cold callers for volume, and let your AEs focus on discovery and closing. At SalesHive, we've seen this structure reduce wasted meetings because strategy stays close to your market, while execution scales at offshore economics, especially when combined with list-building services and a cold email agency motion that warms accounts before calls. If you're only tracking dials and meetings booked, you'll optimize the wrong thing. Instrument the full chain, then coach to the constraint. If connects are low, fix data and dialing windows. If conversations don't convert, tighten the message. If meetings don't show, refine qualification and confirmation. This is how high-performing outsourced B2B sales teams behave, and it's what separates the best cold calling services from the noisiest ones. Scale responsibly. Pilot, prove, then expand. Treat your first engagement like a 60 to 90-day pilot, with clear goals tied to quality, not just output. The first few weeks should focus on training, script testing, and small batch calling to validate lists and learn objections. By weeks 4 through 8, you should see steady improvements if the ICP, offer, and coaching loop are aligned. When you're ready to scale, expand one variable at a time. Add seats, then add segments, then add regions. The Philippines produces 700,000 plus college graduates annually, which helps sustain a strong talent pipeline for B2B cold callers. But growth still requires process to maintain quality. If you're aiming to hire SDRs or hire SDRs at scale through outsourcing, you'll get better results by building a repeatable training and QA system than by constantly swapping vendors. Your next step is simple. Define your ICP and meeting standards, shortlist a few providers, and demand full visibility into activity and outcomes. Whether you work with SalesHive or another outbound sales agency, the bar should be the same: tight playbooks, CRM-integrated reporting, and incentives aligned to qualified meetings and pipeline. Do that, and outsourcing cold calling to the Philippines becomes a controllable, scalable growth lever rather than a gamble.